I haven't bought a bottle of dish soap in about 40 years. Not one bottle, not one refill, not one of those big jugs people haul home and tuck under the sink like they've stocked up for winter. And my dishes come out clean. I learned why in 1985, standing at the kitchen sink with more soap in the water than the dishes needed. Mom watched me squeeze a long stream into a pan of hot water, reached over, turned off the tap with her wrist, and said, "Child, you are washing your dishes in perfume and paying for the privilege." Mom had spent a lifetime running a home where nothing useful was wasted. Then she showed me what she kept beside her own sink. It cost about $1, took 11 minutes to make, and went into a jar. At number 6, I'll show you why that bottle feels thick and powerful. At number 3, I'll show you exactly what Mom put in that jar. And number 1 is why I never bought another bottle again. If you would rather trust the old ways than the bright labels, subscribe and stay with me. That is the whole payment I ask, because here is the part most people never think about. A lot of what makes that bottle heavy is already liquid. You carry it home in plastic just to squeeze it into a sink you are already filling with water. Once Mom made me see that, the bottle never looked quite the same. And number 10 starts with the first waste she corrected. That was the first thing Mom changed. She took the bottle out of my hand, set a teaspoon on the counter, and asked, "How much does that sink actually need?" I had no idea. I had never measured dish soap in my life. I squeezed until the water looked right, and the more bubbles I saw, the cleaner I imagined the dishes would be. Mom filled that little spoon once and said, "Start there. If the dishes ask for more, you can give them more." So I did. The plates came clean. The glasses rinsed faster. And when the last dish went into the rack, there was no mountain of suds left behind. What surprised me was not that 1 teaspoon worked. It was how much soap I had been pouring away simply because the bottle made it easy. A squeeze feels like nothing. But every extra squeeze brings the next bottle home sooner. That little spoon taught me a rule I still use all over the house. Start with enough. You can always add more. You cannot pour it back into the bottle. And soap is not the only thing people waste at the sink. Number 9 can save an entire basin of hot water just by changing what you wash first. Mom never dropped everything into the sink in whatever order it happened to arrive. Glasses went first, while the water was hottest and cleanest. Then the plates. Then the silverware and serving bowls. The greasy pans waited until the end. At first, I thought she was simply being particular. Then I tried doing it the other way. Put 1 roasting pan into a fresh basin and suddenly the water is cloudy. Grease is floating across the top, and every glass that follows needs more soap and more rinsing. Before long, you drain the sink and fill it all over again. Same dishes, same kitchen, twice the hot water. That was what Mom understood. Sometimes the order of a job costs just as much as the job itself. So I still begin with the things that leave the water clean and finish with the things that do not. The order costs nothing. The refill does. And number 8 begins before the first plate ever touches the water, because a surprising amount of the grease in your sink never needed to get there at all. Mom kept a little scraper beside the sink, and she used it before the water ever started running. A streak of gravy, bacon grease, bits of egg, sauce left on a plate. If you can remove it before it reaches the sink, why ask the soap to fight it afterward? She scraped plates clean, wiped greasy pans before washing them, and only then put them into the basin. That one habit changed the whole sink. Less grease floating on top, less food going toward the drain, less soap needed to get everything clean. And the wash water stayed useful longer. I still think about that every time I stand at the sink. Half of dishwashing happens before the dish ever touches the water. Once I understood that, I stopped treating soap like it was supposed to solve every problem in the kitchen. Sometimes the cheapest cleaner is simply removing the mess first, and number 7 taught me something even better. Sometimes you do not need more soap. You need to stop scrubbing and let time do the work. Mom could not stand watching somebody attack a burnt pan like they were trying to punish it. If something was baked onto the bottom, she filled the pan with hot water, added a little washing soda, and left it alone. That was the part I had trouble with. I wanted to scrub. Mom wanted me to go do something else. An hour later, most of what I had been fighting was soft enough to lift away with hardly any effort. And that taught me something I had never considered. I had been trying to do in 10 minutes what the water could do for me in an hour. We are so used to thinking harder work must mean better cleaning that sometimes we create work the kitchen never asked us to do. More scrubbing, more soap, more hot water, more worn-out hands. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is fill the pan and walk away. Time does the labor, and time costs nothing. But number 6 is where this gets interesting, because that bottle under your sink has taught generations of us to judge cleaning power by something that does not clean a single plate. Number 6, stop judging soap by how thick it feels. This was one of those things Mom understood without needing to know the chemistry behind it. A thin liquid feels weak. A thick liquid that pours out slowly feels strong. Add a bright color, a powerful fragrance, and a mountain of bubbles, and suddenly the product feels like it must be doing more. But feeling strong and cleaning well are not the same thing. A little salt, for example, can be used to make a surfactant solution thicker. It changes the way the liquid pours. It makes it feel richer in your hand. But that thickness itself is not the part taking grease off the plate. Once I understood that, I started noticing the bottle differently. The thick pour, the bright color, the perfume. The way one big squeeze makes the sink look busy before a single dish is clean. Mom had a phrase for it that I still remember. The bottle is heavy, so your wallet feels light. That was her way of saying, pay attention to the part doing the actual work. So I stopped letting the bottle decide the amount for me. I measured. I watched the dishes. And I learned that clean does not have to look dramatic. That led to a better question. What is actually doing the cleaning? And number 5 is where Mom taught me that sometimes the answer is not dish soap at all. Mom taught me this one with coffee cups. I used to see that brown ring inside a mug and reach for more soap. I would scrub harder, add another squeeze, rinse it, look inside. And there it was. One day, Mom watched me fighting with one of those cups and handed me the baking soda. Wrong problem, wrong tool. A little baking soda on a damp cloth, a few circles around the inside of the cup, and the stain lifted before I had time to complain about it. That was the real lesson. Grease is one problem. Coffee stains are another. Burnt food is another. Pouring more of the same cleaner onto everything does not make the cleaner more useful. It just empties the bottle faster. Mom always looked at what kind of dirt she was dealing with before deciding what to use on it. I still do the same. Use the cleaner for the job it actually does well. And once the dishes are clean, number 4 saves you from doing one more job that many of us were taught was simply part of washing dishes. Put down the towel. Let the air finish. Mom never understood why people washed a dish, rinsed it clean, and then picked up a towel to give themselves one more thing to do. She stood plates on edge, turned the glasses upside down, and walked away. The air did the rest. No wiping every plate, no damp towel hanging over the oven handle, no extra pile of towels waiting to be washed because we could not leave a clean dish alone for 20 minutes. I still do it her way. Wash it, rinse it, put it in the rack, go do something else. The older I get, the more I notice how many household jobs become expensive simply because we keep adding another step after the job is already finished. If the air will dry the dishes without asking anything from me, I am happy to let it. And now we are finally getting to the question I promised you at the beginning. If I stopped buying bottled dish soap, what exactly has been sitting beside my sink all these years? Number 3 is where I open Mom's jar. This was the part that surprised me most back in 1985. There was no secret ingredient, no complicated recipe, no special machine. Mom took one plain bar of Castile soap and grated it into thin shavings. Then she heated 4 cups of water and stirred the soap into it until the shavings disappeared. That was nearly the whole job. She poured the mixture into a jar and left it alone overnight. By morning, it had thickened into a soft soap jelly. That was what sat beside her sink. One jar, one spoon, no row of bottles. The first time she showed it to me, I kept waiting for another step. There wasn't one. When I wash dishes by hand, I take a small amount from the jar and dissolve it into the wash water. If the dishes need more, I add more. Most of the time, they do not. And let me be very clear about one thing. This is for hand washing dishes in a sink. I do not put soap jelly into an automatic dishwasher. That machine needs the product made for it. But for an ordinary sink full of plates, cups, and pans, that little jar changed the way I shopped for decades. And number 2 is what turned it from a kitchen trick into a system, because I eventually stopped making one little jar at a time. I started making almost the whole year at once. Mom taught me the method. Over the years, I changed the size of the batch. Now, instead of waiting until the jar is empty, I make several jars at once. I grate 4 bars of plain Castile soap. I dissolve them in about a gallon of hot water. Then I stir in 2 tablespoons of washing soda while everything is still warm. I let the mixture sit overnight. By morning, I stir it smooth and pour it into 4-quart jars. One stays beside the sink. The others go into the cupboard. And for months, dish soap simply disappears from my shopping list. That may be my favorite part of the whole system. It is not only the money. It is not only avoiding another plastic bottle. It is the fact that I no longer have to think about buying it. A good household system should remove work from your life, not create another little chore every Tuesday. Do the job once. Put the jars away. Let the cupboard take care of you for a while. That is when this stopped feeling like a trick. It became one less thing I had to remember at the store. And that brings us to number 1. Because after all these years, the biggest lesson was never really about making soap. It was about what happened when I stopped, assuming that bottle under the sink had to be part of my life at all. Number 1, stop buying the bottle. That sounds almost too simple after everything we have talked about. But this was the part that changed my kitchen the most. A bottle becomes permanent when replacing it becomes automatic. You finish it. You write it on the list. You bring another one home. You put it under the sink. Then a few weeks later, you do the same thing again without ever asking whether there is another way. Mom asked that question about nearly everything in the house. Do I really need this? Can I use less? Can I make it last longer? Can I do the same job another way? And if she found something simpler that worked, she did not spend much time feeling sentimental about the product she had stopped buying. She just stopped buying it. That is what happened to dish soap in my house. I did not protest. I did not complain. I did not stand in the cleaning aisle making some grand statement about modern life. I simply stopped showing up at that shelf. I had something at home that did the job, so there was no reason to keep bringing another bottle through the front door. All these years later, that still seems like the most useful kind of saving. Not chasing a coupon, not waiting for a sale, not buying 3 bottles because the 4th one is free. Just learning that you may not need the bottle in the first place. Once that happens, the store cannot sell you the same habit quite as easily. And that is what all 10 of these old kitchen habits really come down to. Enough soap, enough hot water, enough scrubbing, enough buying. Knowing when enough is enough may be one of the oldest household skills there is. My mother has been gone a long time now. But every time I reach for that jar beside the sink, I still think about the afternoon she reached across me, turned off the tap, and told me I was paying for perfume. At the time, it sounded like one of those things mothers say that makes you smile. I did not know I would still remember it 40 years later. The older I get, the more I understand what Mom was really teaching me. Most of those old household ways were never about being cheap. They were about paying attention. Use what you need. Take care of what you already own. And do not keep buying something simply because buying it has become a habit. Some old ways disappeared because something better replaced them. That is fine. But others disappeared simply because buying another bottle became easier than remembering what people used before the bottle was there. And sometimes that old way is still sitting right in front of us, waiting to be remembered. So if your mother or grandmother had a little kitchen habit that never left you, tell me about it in the comments. I have a feeling there are a lot of good old ideas still hiding in kitchens all over this country. And if you want to help me bring a few more of them back, subscribe and come see what we uncover next. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you at the next one.